So something I've been thinking about recently is that I genuinely believe that houses reproduce jobs when no one's looking. Now I know it sounds ridiculous, but I'm convinced it's true. You finish one thing and somehow three more appear. Yeah, you fix the fence and the gutter starts leaking. You sort one room and suddenly the next room just looks awful. You clear a corner, and within about 4 days, it's somehow become the official dumping ground for things that apparently have no home. I don't understand the science behind it, but I know it's happening. I know it's happening. And houses just seem like they're very expensive, slightly broken Tamagotchis. They constantly need feeding, cleaning, attention. And if you ignore it for too long, something starts flashing and beeping and just pay attention to it. I think every homeowner must have had at least one job that's nearly finished, somewhere between like 6 months and 6 years. You know the job I'm talking about. Yeah, it's putting that shelf up, or that skirting board that just needs touching up, or that box of random bits that's just been moved from room to room for so long that it just that box, you live with that box now. Yeah, it just is that box. I, I think anybody ever warns you about this when you become an adult. You buy a house or you rent a house or whatever. You move into a house, let's say, and somewhere in the back of your mind there's this idea that one day you'll have it all sorted. You'll sit down and think, right, house complete, tick in the box, job done. And I'm beginning to think that day never arrives, because that target just keeps on moving. It, Children grow, your needs change, tastes change, especially the wife's tastes change, you know what I mean? Life changes. The room that worked 5 years ago, it just doesn't work the same now, yeah? The furniture that made sense doesn't make sense now. The garden you thought would be a simple, long term thing, it just turns into a negotiation, with mud, weeds, and weather, and your own questionable optimism. You think that you're finishing the house, but not really. You're just adapting to this moving target, yeah? And I think that's true of adult life generally, yeah? No, no, that's too tidy. Adult life isn't like a house. I think a house is one of those places where adult life shows itself more clearly, yeah? Because nothing stays sorted, not properly. You sort the washing, but then people wear more clothes and make more washing, which is deeply inconsiderate of them, really. You sort the garden, but then the grass grows back again. Yeah, you sit down in the office, you sort your emails, and then people send you more emails. Yeah, you get on top of it all for about 48 hours, but then your life just starts rebuilding this pile. It's outrageous, but that is life. Yeah, I think one of the biggest shocks of adulthood is realizing that maintenance isn't the thing you do before your life starts. Maintenance is a huge part of life, yeah? So whether it is looking after your house or looking after your body or relationships, money, your own head, none of it stays fixed just because you sorted it once, which is annoying. It's really annoying. You did the job. You want that tick in the box. It's crossed off. It's done. Finito. But it's true, yeah? And a house teaches you that in the most petty ways imaginable. You usually through pain as well, knuckle-based pain, yeah? There's somewhere in every shed, every drawer, toolbox, whatever, there's a spanner that it looks like the one you need. It's not the one you need, but it looks close enough to betray you. Yeah, it ain't that 10 mil. We all lost that 10 mil a long time ago. Let go of the 10 mil. It ain't coming back. Yeah, it's that Imperial one, isn't it? You know the one. What is it, 9/16, I think, off the top of my head? Yeah, you know the one. But you're already halfway through the job. So going to get that right tool, stopping and going to get that right tool from the shop, yeah, feels like you're admitting defeat, yeah? So you pick up this tool that ain't quite right, but you think, that'll probably do, yeah? It doesn't do, does it? Yeah? You've been there. It doesn't do it. It slips. It rounds the bolt. You smash your knuckles, don't you? You know what I'm talking about. You've been there. And it makes this fairly simple job, it makes it 3 times harder than if you'd have just stopped and found the right tool in the first place, yeah? And there's very few sentences more dangerous in DIY, I think, than that'll probably do, yeah? Closely followed by, I'll remember where I put that, and I don't need the instructions, this will be simple. The wrong spanner is useful, not at the job, obviously. At the job, it's just a menace. But it's a lesson, yeah? You need to learn that lesson. Because the almost right tool is often more dangerous than the obviously wrong one, yeah? Do you follow me? The obviously wrong one doesn't fool you. You're not trying to paint a wall with a fork. Yeah, it's obviously the wrong tool. You're not trying to cut your timber with a teaspoon. It's obviously the wrong tool. Although, yeah, there's probably a TikTok where someone has tried that. Drop it in the comments, it'd be worth a giggle, yeah? Pop it down for me. That'd be worth seeing. Someone cutting timber with a teaspoon. I bet someone's done it. But anyway, the tool that nearly works, yeah, that's the one that gets you. Because you think you'll get away with it, people try to do this in life as well. You try to solve your problems with these almost right tools, yeah? Your old habits, your old coping mechanisms, your old assumptions, things that used to work or sort of worked, yeah? Or just enough to convince us that it was working. But they don't work enough to actually solve the problem. And sometimes doing... the hardest part isn't doing the work, yeah? The hardest part is stopping halfway through and realising this ain't working. Which is annoying, because then you got to stop, yeah? You have to put the wrong tool down. You got to go find the right one. You have to admit that the thing you were doing with great, with great confidence was just making the job worse. But experience, I think, isn't the ability to stop making mistakes. I wish it was. That'd be lovely, yeah? We've all made mistakes, yeah? Experience is more like recognising the mistake when you're still making it. And occasionally having the sense to stop before you round that bolt off completely, yeah? Hazards teach us something else as well. When you live long enough, you stop seeing what you've done and start seeing what there is left to do, yeah? You walk into a room and you see that wall that needs painting, that cupboard that needs fixing, that shelf we spoke about earlier. It's still sitting there, still needing to be done, yeah? You don't walk into the room and think, this used to look completely different, yeah? Look how far we have come in making this room completely different. We've done loads here. But you don't, no one ever thinks that. No one ever sees that. You just think of these unfinished bits, yeah? And that's what people do to them with themselves, yeah? You make progress. And after a while, it just becomes the normal, yeah, the standard that you're at. You know, you lose some weight, you start thinking about the next target, you save some money, but you start thinking about saving a bit more, yeah. You know, you get through something difficult, and you're immediately on to the next problem. You don't always stop and think, hold on, this used to be a lot harder to do. You know, this used to scare me. I didn't used to be able to think that I could handle this, but you have, yeah? Progress becomes invisible when you live through every tiny step. And I thought that houses explain that better than almost anything else, yeah? Now, if you stand outside your house today and look at it through the eyes of the person who first moved in, you'd see progress everywhere. It won't be perfection, yeah? It's not going to be perfection, but you're going to see the progress, yeah? You know, the repairs, the decorating, the garden, the little garden gnomes you got out the front, yeah? You'll see, you know, the memories that you've made there, the little changes that made it more yours. But because you've lived through every job, you know, every delay, every trip to B&Q's when you forgot something, you know, your brain skips straight to what still isn't finished. And that's what people are doing with their lives, yeah? They just see these unfinished parts. That career that's not quite where they want it. Their savings that haven't built up, you know. The person they haven't quite become. And because they're looking at what remains unfinished, they miss how much they've already built. Now, I don't think that, I'm not saying, you know, you need to stop improving things. That ain't what I'm saying. You know, I've still got jobs I want to cross off my list. I still want, you know, there's things like, not metaphorically, in my house that I want to improve. And metaphorically as well, you know, I still want to improve myself. I still want a workshop, you know, so I'm doing a nice bit of woodworking bits in there, you know, and all things like that. This isn't me suddenly becoming someone else who says leave everything as it is, it's all fine. No. Some things need fixing, some things do need changing, yeah? Some things you know you've got one yourself in your own house that annoys you every single time you walk past it, yeah? And it does deserve dealing with. But I've stopped expecting that list is going to end. No, that's a complete lie. I'm trying to stop expecting that list is going to end, you know? I'm not, I'm a work in progress myself, yeah? Everyone's a work in progress. Adulthood ain't about finishing everything. Adulthood is about maintenance, yeah? Which isn't exciting, I know. Nobody's putting that on a motivational poster, you know? Maintain what matters. I don't know, actually that's not bad, but you know what I mean. It's not glamorous, it's not dramatic, it's not, yeah, it's not the big reveal at the end of the renovation program, you know, everyone's crying and pretending the budget wasn't destroyed, and there's that little sparky bloke, what's his face, anyway, you know, he's smaller than that, yeah, it's coming back to things, yeah, it's just repairing things when they drift off, and just paying attention, yeah? Noticing what needs care before it comes a massive disaster, yeah? And just stopping long enough to notice how far you've come. The unfinished parts, they're always the easiest parts to see, yeah? You know, but they're not the whole picture. Becoming an adult is learning how to hold both things at the same time, yeah? Seeing what's left to do, but also recognizing what you've already built, yeah? You want to improve the house, of course you do, you know, that's what you do. But you don't treat your home as worthless, yeah? You want to improve yourself, but you stop, you need to stop acting like the current version of you is just a problem waiting to be solved. That's the thing, yeah? Your house is never finished. And probably you won't ever be either. But that's not failure, yeah? That's just what it looks like when something is alive. You do it one job at a time, yeah? You choose how it ends.